The topic which we are going to cover today is enhanced design pattern, that is PageFactory. In the last class we covered a normal page object model and object repository. So we discussed what is an object repository and how you can create a new project. Then we enhanced that object repository to create a page object model. Uh, so in that, uh, what enhancement we did was that all the web elements, along with that, all the possible methods are also created inside that class. So if somebody has to change anything for a particular page, it has to go to that particular Java class and then change. So for example, you're working on an application which has first page as login page, then there will be one page, one Java file created for that login page, and all the possible methods on login will be created in that login page.java, right? Now there is a small limitation to it, and I asked you to test one scenario. I'm not sure how many of you have tried on. So I'll explain what exactly was that. So in the last class we discussed that in Amazon, on Amazon.in, if you search for any product, let's say from the drop down list I select any category, maybe I select watches, and then here I search for an Apple Watch, and if I click on search button, it will search for the elements and you get the result. So here you're getting the result, and I asked you to get this result using the page object model which we were using. Okay, so let me just try it now, what exactly happens if you do this. Okay, if you'll see, it's an span which has an ID s result count. Okay, so I'll just copy this ID. Okay, and we'll try to use it in our POM. So here was my POM 2. In this, at the top, in POM 2 style, here we will define this web element. So it will be private web element, then let's say result. Okay, so we created this, and then its initialization will be done here. Result equal to driver.findBy dot id, and the value of id will be this, and we are done, right? I just created one web element and initialized it. Probably at the end, after clicking on this element, what I want is I want text from it. So I'll say string result equal to uh, common element dot get text from which web element, from result web element, right? What is it? Cannot change method get text to get text string. Okay, I guess then we have created this method as wrong. Yeah, so a string result text equal to common element dot get text, and then we are passing that result element. So if I execute the code now, if I'll just go to this and execute the code now, what happened? Okay, right click, run as Java application. See, it's not proceeding, and if I go to my code, you will see that after some time an exception will occur. Let's just wait for some time. It is waiting for page load timeout, and sorry, not page load time, element detection timeout, and then it will throw an exception. And the exception we get is, if you look at it, the exception is no such an element. Which element it is not able to find? The one which has an ID as s result count. Okay, why this happened? If you observe, um, like if I go back to the code, if you observe here in this Amazon POM2 style, I just created this web element with name result at the start. That's fine. We are just creating it. But look at where its initialization is happening. Its initialization is happening in the constructor of Amazon POM2 style, right? That means in when you are initializing this particular page, is this particular Java class, at that time it is trying to initialize this result web element. If I'll go to demo, you will see where we are initializing. We are initializing this form2 style just after navigating to the URL. Just after navigating to the URL means after I navigated to this URL, I'm trying to initialize all the web elements. Does that web element, that is result, is there on this page at that time? No, that particular web element is not there on this page. That will appear after performing certain operation. Okay, so the elements which are not there at the time of initialization or just after invoking the URL, uh, navigating to that particular URL, those web element will throw this exception which we just got, that is no such element exception. So this is one of the limitation of this POM2 style, that if your website is dynamic means if there are some web elements which appear after some time on the screen, those web elements uh, will not be handled by your this page object model. Okay, is the problem clear to all? Any questions here? Okay, so I'm taking it as no. Let's move it how we can solve this problem. So to solve this problem, Selenium provides us with one enhanced way of creating web elements, and that is that is PageFactory. So now we will look at PageFactory here. Okay, so I'll just open PageFactory. Okay, so here PageFactory is an enhanced way of writing POM design patterns. For the better understanding of POM, we have already gone through page object model. Now, in PageFactory, web elements are identified using an annotation called @findBy. It supports all the identifiers or locators: ID, name, class name, tag name, CSS selector, link text, partial link text, and XPath. All these uh, it supports. Okay, so what it is saying is, in case of PageFactory, instead of finding the elements by find.element, we will be using one annotation known as @findBy. Okay, so let's first define using this, and then we'll come back here and we'll discuss about what are the different benefits. Okay, so I'll just go to my project. Which one is ours? This is ours, right? Yeah. So in the design pattern, I'll create one more. Right click, new class, and I'll call it Amazon Page Factory. Okay. Okay. Now in this, first of all, what I said is the web elements which you'll be defining, they'll be using one annotation known as @findBy. So let me just write that. It will be @findBy. Okay, you have to take one from selenium.support.findBy. Okay, after this, define the web element. So it will be private web element, and the name of the element. Name of the element will be uh, let's say search box. Okay, so this is my first web element which I've defined. Similarly, the remaining ones also I have to do. So I'll just copy paste from the remaining one from the other one. And we also need this. So I'll just copy all of them and paste it here. Okay. Now, so what is other things you have to pass in find by? In find by also you need to pass what is the criteria. So this particular web element, that is search box, how this is defined. So if you come below, that search box has an ID, right? Let me copy the ID. We'll come back here and we'll say here ID. It supports all of the locator, ID, name, class name, everything it supports. So ID equal to then its value. Okay, so I'll just copy it, paste it before the second one, and the second one is identified. Second one is which one? Second one is search button. So search button is identified with the XPath. I'll just copy this XPath, and here we'll say XPath equal to this. Okay. Similarly, the next one is search category. So search category is identified with an ID. I'll copy it and paste it here. Next one is result. Result is again identified with an ID. I'll copy the ID and paste it here. So all the web elements are now defined, and we are using an annotation known as @findBy to give the values. Okay, but still no initialization has happened. It's just we are assigning the values. Okay, initialization will again happen in the constructor only. So I'll here say Amazon Page Factory. So I'll just create its constructor. Now to initialize this, we have something known as PageFactory. There is a class called PageFactory from org.openqa.selenium.support. There is a method called initElements. You have to tell the factory. So factory means where you want to initialize them. Okay, so for that we need instance of WebDriver. So we'll say WebDriver. So where you want to initialize them, you need to pass that. That is, I want to initialize them on driver instance. And which element you're talking about, the one which are defined in this particular class. So you need to pass this. This means the web elements which are defined in this particular class. So this will initialize the web elements which you just defined above with the criteria being passed in the attributes of find by annotation. Okay. uh, Rest everything will remain same. I just need to get all the elements. Sorry, I just need to initialize all of the elements. I'll just copy them. We'll paste them here. Okay, and then what else? The method. So search method I'll copy. Okay, we'll paste it here. And after this, I'll just print it. Okay, so let's test this. Let whether the same problem which we faced when we were designing POM 2, whether that will come here or not. So for that, I'll just copy one of the POM style. Let me copy this. The test folder will paste and we'll change it to PageFactory. Okay, so here this will change. We need to change it to PageFactory. Here this will change to PageFactory. The rest everything will remain same. So when I'll execute this code, let's see if it works or not. And if it will work, then we'll discuss about how it worked. So page is invoked now. Now it will initialize all the web elements. And you can see it has searched for Apple Watches. That means the issue is not coming here. And if you'll see, it has also printed the result, the complete result, which is coming here. Okay, it's gone now. So the complete result which is coming on was coming on there is printed. So how it worked, because here also the initialization is happening uh, at the time of constructor calling, right? Here we call the constructor Amazon Page Factory, and the constructor is defined here. And in constructor we are, sorry, this is POM 2. Let me go to Page Factory. Yeah, here also the initialization is happening in constructor. Okay, but this time there is a different way of initializing elements. What does this Page Factory do? This Page Factory keeps all the web elements inside it, inside one buffer you can say, or in a cache you can say. Now uh, all those web elements which were available at the time of initialization, when this constructor was called, at that time whatever web elements were there, it initialized them. But whatever was not there, for those it will not throw any exception, but will try those web elements, will try searching those web elements at the time of interaction. So the particular web element, that is result, was not there at the time of constructor calling, but at the time when it is being used, at that time it searched for that particular web element again. Okay, and at that time it was found, so there was no exception. Okay, and this will also solve a problem of something known as stale element exception. Okay, stale element exception is something which is which is asked a lot many times in your interviews. And what is stale element exception? Stale element exception is something like, let's say you were working on a web page, and you have identified some of the web elements on that page, but at the time of interaction those elements change, something got changed in them. So if you'll try to interact with them using the older way, it will give you a stale element exception. Okay, stating that your page is refreshed and your element has changed its location, or its locator is changed, so you need to identify them again. Okay, so what PageFactory will do, PageFactory before interacting with those elements, search them again. Okay, so yeah, this is the benefit, one of the benefit of using PageFactory. Any questions?
Can you repeat it again? Because I didn't get you.
Which one, the second part
Like
or the
the
second?
advantage of
Okay,
Page
okay.
Factory.
Yeah, I'll just explain. Okay, see what I was saying that so one of the problem it is solving is all those web elements which are not there on the page at the time of initialization. It will not throw any exception for those elements, but it will search them at the time of interaction. Okay. Now, what is the extra benefit? The extra benefit is there is something known as stale element exception. That stale element exception occurs at the time when your web element, when your one of the web element has changed its locator. Okay, I'll give you a simple example for it. Say for example, you have a web table. In that web table, you were searching for one of the element which was coming at fifth position when you interacted with it for the first time. Okay, so that means your element is available in your web table at fifth row, first column. Okay, now uh, you have this element with you. Something happened and your element changed from fifth position to, let's say, seventh position or eighth position with some new parameters. Now, if you'll try to interact with the older element at that particular position, that element is not present now. So you will get a stale element exception, which will say that your page has refreshed and your elements are changed. Okay, so if you are using the normal way of interacting with the elements or POM2 style, then it will give you the stale element exception because your element has changed now. But if you are using PageFactory, it will not throw that exception, but will search it again uh, using whatever locator you're passing. Okay, so when it will search it again, it will find its new position and will return you the element at new position. So you will not get stale element exception. So this is how we can resolve using PageFactory. So if in interview somebody asks you what is tail element exception, the answer should be when your a page got reloaded or refreshed and some of the element changes its location, then if you try to interact with the older web elements, it will throw an exception. And how you can uh, fix this by using one of the design pattern known as page factory. What it do is it will search for those element again if your page is refreshed. Okay, so is it clear now? I'll show you one more thing here. Let me open the normal browser. So I'll Google for seleniumhq.org. I'll go to this site. Okay, download Selenium and I'll go to its Java docs. Okay, guys, 3.8 is launched now. By using at find by annotation and by using pagefactory.init elements, you're getting this. At find by is just an annotation to search. Its initialization is happening by this pagefactory.init elements. So this is the one which is helping you. Okay, so here search for exception. I'll just search for exception. I got this one.
So the annotation of find by and what we were using earlier, find element. So there's no difference in that.
No, there is a difference. Difference is this page element. Uh, this one, this page element dot init elements. It will initialize only those elements which are defined using this at find by. So it's a combination which is helping. You can say.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I'll come back to this. and here you can search for this tail element exception, tail element reference exception. See what it is saying. It is saying indicates that the reference of an element is now stale. The element no longer appears in the on the DOM of the page. Means in that particular page it has changed its reference. Now it is located somewhere else. That is what stale element reference exception means. And how to solve it, I just gave you the example by using PageFactory. Okay, so any questions now? So I gave you with one example, and example was that result which you're getting after you search for one product. It's not throwing any exception for that. Why? Because at the time it was present, it searched it again. Okay. Now one more thing. When you're using this add find by annotations, in that one way I explained is this: give the ID and give directly the value. And the second way is this, by using how and using. Okay, so here you will what you'll pass in add find by annotation, how equal to how dot id, and then using its value. So it's same as id equal to its value. Any one of the two way you can use. Okay. Next is how to identify multiple web elements. Like if you are searching for all the links on a page, how will you do that? So again, it's very simple. You have to use the same annotation, pass the criteria, and then give the value, use the relevant thing. So if you'll use normally private web element and then name of the web element, it will be single element. But if we'll use private list of a web element, then it will search all the web elements matching that criteria and will put them in this link, in this list. Okay, initialization will happen using the same method, that is PageFactory.init elements. Okay, now talking about the benefits of PageFactory, one of them I just mentioned, that if you are getting stale element reference exception, then that can be solved. And second is with when you are using the static web pages. Okay, so this the above one which I just mentioned, that is stale element reference exception, that will happen only if your web element is if your web page is dynamic. That means your elements are changing frequently. But if your website is a static website where elements are not changing, say for example you have Guru 99 website, that complete website is a static website, all the elements appears at the same position every time. Okay, that's a static web page, right? So for those, if your page factory will search for elements again and again at the time of interaction, it will consume some time. Okay, so for that, what you can do is you can add something known as at cache lookup. Okay, even for the example which we took, we know that the first few elements they will appear as soon as you'll reach to your page. That means they will you can add an annotation known as at cache lookup. Okay, you just have to add this at cache lookup, this annotation before all the elements. What it will do, it will keep all these elements in one of its cache, and at the time of interaction it will not search the element again, but will take it from its cache and will interact. This way you are improving the performance of your code. Okay, by putting all those elements which are sure shot will be available, which you are sure that they will be available at the time of initialization. You'll keep them in cache, and at the time of interaction you'll not search them again. Just go and interact with them. This way you're saving some time of identifying the elements, right? So this is the benefit. Now nothing you will be able to see. If you'll execute it again, it will execute the same way. It's just that it improves performance, and that performance you will be able to get when you have a long list of methods. Like your code is running for 1 or 2 hours. that time you will be able to find its benefit. Okay, so yeah, that's all in PageFactory. Any questions now? Okay, then next we can start is, okay, I'll just close all of them. Okay, so next what we have to start is, let me just open my modular framework PPT. Okay, so in this particular framework, what all we have covered, we covered this automation layer completely. Only one method is left, that is taking screenshot, which I'll take up later once we'll cover file handling. Then we started with this design patterns. So all the three design patterns are done, and I guess all of you will agree that the page factory is the most beneficial one if you have a dynamic website. So we will be using page factory for our code. Okay, and now I'll be starting with this application layer, and we also covered this wait utility with us. Okay, so I'll start with this application layer now. Okay, and let's see how much we can cover, and then we'll move on to test case layer. We will start writing test cases. We'll create XML files of it, and then the remaining ones. Okay, so yeah, so let me start here. Okay, so the page with, so here you can see in the Mercury Travels we have created two packages, com.mercury travels. In this, one is pages, and second one is test cases. So in pages I'll start creating the page. Okay, now let's talk about which application we are going to automate. So we will be automating this mercurytravels.co.in. Okay, so this particular here what we will be taking, one page will take is this, the one which you are seeing here. One will take for international holidays, one will take for Indian holidays. Okay, then one will take for flights, one will take for hotels, and so on. Okay, on the main page, that is the first one, home page, we will be covering user login and register. Okay, then holidays, flights, hotels, these will also be created. Like if I'll click on flights, you will see that we'll reach to the flight section of here only. Okay, so we'll create one page which will have all the web elements of this. Okay, like this we will be creating multiple pages. It's just that one I'll complete, rest it's your responsibility to complete. I'll help you in that. Okay, so in the pages, first page I'll create will be Mercury Travel homepage. So it will be Mercury Travel homepage. Okay, this is the first one. Then I'll add, next will be, let's say mm, I'll call it flights. Okay, then let's put hotel. Okay, then Holidays will be one. Okay, so I'll take this holidays as one page. Okay, rest you can think and add. Okay, now first thing that on this page I can go to my international holidays. I can go to Indian holidays. Okay, so let's add these two as well. So maybe here I can add a class with name international holidays, and one will be Indian holidays. You can use any of the web application for automation here. It's not that you have to use Mercury Travels. Whatever you feel like, whatever if you think if you have any application in your project, you can use that as well. Not an issue. Okay. Now let's start with the home page. So on a home page, I have all these links first, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7, 8 links are there. So we will be defining all those links in Mercury Travel homepage here by using at find by annotation. So it will be at find by. So the first one will be, let's take one by one. So the first one is international holidays. So I'll say private web element, and then name I'll say is international holiday link because it's a link. Okay, and how it will be identified? If I check its HTML code, you will see it's inside one li, and it's actually a link which has link text as international holidays. So I'll just copy this link text. We'll come here. Here we'll say link text equal to its value. Okay, so one of the web element is defined. Like this, you need to define all the remaining one. International holiday, holidays, flights, then this customer login, then this user login. If I'll click on this user login, this text box appears, this another text box appears, then this login button appears. Okay, then here you have the register. So on if you click on register, this register form appears, and then you have to define all the web elements of these also. Okay, so all these things will come in this Mercury Travel homepage. So it will take some time to define all those elements. So what I'll do, I have already defined in one of my previous class. So I'll just copy paste from there. In the last class only I'll just defined. So here I defined all those elements. I'll just copy all of them. Okay, and yeah. Okay, so I'll just define all of them like Indian holidays, flights, hotels, then customer login, user login, register link, then username, user ID, password, login button, and there is one more which is this login tab title, which I'll explain you with what is this. Okay, in some time. So all those elements which were required are defined, but I guess elements from registers are not register page are not defined. Maybe you can add them. Okay, once you'll work on it, add all of them. Okay, so all the elements are defined now. Let's move on. Okay, next will be we need to initialize all of them, and we need to also initialize the uh, classes which we are going to use. So classes I'll define at the time of usage only. Currently I'll just initialize all of them. So for that I need a constructor. Mercury Travel homepage, I'll create its constructor, and this constructor will be a parameterized one because we need instance of WebDriver. So I'll say WebDriver driver here. And how to initialize? By using PageFactory, right? So I'll say PageFactory dot init elements. Which elements they define on this driver, and which is the page? This is the page, right? So I initialized all of them. Now let's write the first method to log into this user login. Okay, let's write this user login. Okay, so I'll say public void user login is the method name. We will be using string user name and string password. Okay, so first of all, what you have to do is you have to move to this customer login, then you'll move to this user login, and then we will click on it, right? That means we will be needing mouse over operation here. So I need one of instance of a class which has mouse operations. So I'll say mouse controls. Let's say I'll say mouse control as the web element. Okay, we defined this. Now we need to initialize this also. So I'll say mouse control equal to new mouse controls, and you need to pass the instance of the driver, and done. Okay, so the first one was move to customer login, then you have to move to user login, and then you have to click on it, right? So that means to click you need one of the class of common element. So I'll say private common element, common element control. So I'll say common element, and here we need to initialize it. Common element equal to new common element controls. So second is done. Then you have to write in a text box. That means I need instance of a text box as well. So I'll say text box control text box, and here we'll say text box equal to new text box control. Okay, anything else? I guess no. For now we don't need anything else. So I defined all of them, initialize them. Let's start. So the first one is performing a mouse operation, that is mouse control dot. We have all these methods. One is move to element. Which element you have to move? That is this customer login. Done. And here we need to add throws exception. So we move to the customer login. Next is we need to click on user login, right? So it will be common element dot. What you have to do? Click on which element? On user login, right here. So you'll click on it, then this appears. Here what you have to do, first you have to write in the text box, first one. So for that we have text box dot. First let's clear text from what is the name? User email ID. First we'll clear it, then we'll type in it. User email ID, and okay, here you have to set text. Okay, so user email ID, and what text? Text is username. Okay, and I don't need the last one, I'll remove. Then again you need to set text. Here it will be user password, and here it will be password. Then last one is you need to click on it, so it will be common element dot click. Where? Login button. So login button is this, and we are done. So see how quickly it's being done. Earlier you had to write a lot of code, but now when you are writing the logic, because the above part will be done once, whatever we have done here, everything will be done once. Okay, once you are ready with all the elements, you just have to call method. That's all. So it becomes very easy when you are using some kind of frameworks. Okay, but here if you'll observe one thing, this part, that is mouse control dot move to element, which element? This customer login. It will be used if you go for user login, as well as if you'll go for register. That means when you're going to do a register, this line will repeat. So why not put it in a common method? So let's create one common method with name private void move to customer login link. Okay, and here I just have to copy this line, put it here, and we need to call this move to customer login link. Okay, so we created this as a private method. Here we can simply say throws exception. So we created this as a private method. Now if you'll be writing another method to register, there also you'll be using the same method. Right? Any questions here? So like this, you need to complete all these classes. Okay, you need to complete all these classes. I have completed the home page. I mean, have done most of the things in the home page. Write one method as well. Then you need to first complete this also. Add the register method. Now you have everything with you. You know how to use different classes of Selenium. Everything, every code is also written in this common libs, so you don't have to recall any code. Just call the methods. If something will be missed, that you can add. Okay. So I completed one of the class of this application layer using one of the design pattern, that is PageFactory. Next, I'll start with the test case layer. And in the test case layer, the automation tool, or you can say the testing tool, we are going to use is test-ng. Okay. So yeah, um, next I'll start with that. Any questions before that? Okay, so before I start with that test case layer, let's have a break for 7 minutes. Okay, see you after 7 minutes, and then we'll start with this test case layer. Okay, so we can continue now. Any questions before I start with the test case layer? Okay, fine. So I'll just close this. Um, yeah, in that now I'll go to this test case layer, and in this we will have a class with this Mercury travel home page. Let's say I'll add one test word also with it so that we get to know that this is a test class. Okay, so here, as I told you that we will be using testng for it, right? So what all you have to do here, first of all, we need to invoke the browser. So all those invoking browser, closing browser, and everything will be done in this layer. Also, remember one thing that this is the last, or you can say this is the topmost class which will be invoked. Above it, there won't be any Java class. So exceptional handling is also you need to take care here. So first I'll start with before class, because before I start anything, I need to invoke the browser. I'll call this method as public void invoke browser. Okay. Then I'll also take after class, and I'll say let's say at the end we need to close the browser. Okay, so I've added before class, I've added after class. Next, so let me just complete this first. Okay, so first you need is instance of common driver, right? So here I'll say common driver. Let me call it common driver. Okay, and when you are invoking the browser, okay, common driver equal to new common driver. For now, the browser type I'm keeping it as hard-coded, that is Chrome. Okay, but later on we will add this functionality, that is this browser type, into one of the config file, and we'll be reading from a config file. Okay, next I'll add it in try catch. Okay, one more thing in the catch statement, if you'll see this e.print stack trace, currently I'm just printing it here, but later on we'll add this part also into our logs. Okay, so if you recall, we have logs in our framework, right? So all the logs will be added here. I mean, all these exceptions will be added into the logs, and for all the exception handling, we'll be dumping everything in the logs. Okay, and yeah, what Anshu is saying, we have already done this. Why we are doing? Where we did? Where we did, Anshu? We did this invoking and closing in. Hello? Yeah, Anshu, where we did what you. Yeah, so that's what I'm calling here, right? So there you have created the method, but you need to call them to invoke them, right? So I'm just invoking them. See, see this. Yeah, I'll just explain. See, in the common labs, in the implementation part, you're saying in common driver class, we created this method. First, we created this common driver which has this browser type as the argument. Okay, then here we are setting the page load time, we are setting element detection timeout, then we are navigating to the URL, right? All these things are already done. I'm not repeating them. Invoking browser will not repeat any one of them. Here, what we are doing is we are just calling those methods. See here, now I'm not writing any implementation. I'm just calling the method. You need to call at least, otherwise they'll not automatically get invoked, right? So I'm just calling those methods which you have written in common driver to achieve what you want. So earlier, if you'll see, when I had to invoke, I had to write a long method. But now I'm just calling four methods and everything is done. First is invoking this constructor of common driver, which will invoke the browser. Then on this common driver, I'll set page load timeout, which will be, let's say, 60 seconds. Then next will be common driver dot set element detection timeout, which will be, let's say, 10 seconds. After that, it will be common driver dot navigate to URL, and the URL is, for now I'm keeping it hard coded, but later on we'll put it in config folder. Okay, so this is invocation. Invocation is done, nothing else is required here. Clear, Anshu? Now I'm not repeating methods, I'm just calling them. Okay, similarly, in after class, again I need to put try catch, and here we need to driver dot, sorry, common driver dot close all browsers. So before method and after method is done, now we need to start writing test cases. So first test case will be, you have to take one from, okay, I guess I've taken others also from JUnit. Let me fix this. I need test ng1. So okay, the reason is test ng class is not there. What we can do for that is, here I'll create one demo class, a test ng class. Next, I'll give it a name. Let's say we'll be writing holidays tests, right? This also will write, and in this we need to add test ng library. Now that library is added, okay, now we need to import the one with test ng. Okay, now there is one more thing which maybe I have never explained you, but yeah, what you can do is, see, like when I have to do this um, before class, I added before class. Now next will be, I need to add after class. So for that also I'll do the same thing. I'll call one from testng.annotations and so on. Okay, there is one quick way to achieve this, that when we are saying org.testng.annotations dot after class dot after before class, then we'll add test and other thing. Instead of that, you can simply put a star. What this star will do, then you don't need the other one. It will automatically take care. Okay. So here when I'm writing test, see, this test is from org.testannotations directly. So this will be taken care. Now public void, I'll write first test case as verify title of the home page. This is my first test case, and I need to add its priority also. So the priority will be, I'll start with 0 priority. Okay, so this is my first test case. Second test case I'll put is test, then priority I'll keep as, let's say, 100, and the test case will be public void verify login of user login with correct credentials. Okay, so this is what we are going to achieve here. First method will be verify title of the home page, and second will be verify login with correct credential. Okay, so here first thing will be you need expected title, one thing, then you need actual title, and then you will be comparing both assert using assert statement. Now remember, when you are writing any test case, it must have at least one assert statement. If your test case is not having an assert statement, that test case is not a test case, because that test case will never fail. Okay, so you must have at least one assert statement. So here I'm putting assert dot assert equals, because we are going to compare. So it will be assert dot assert equals. You need to compare the actual title with the expected title. Just a second. Yeah, actual title with expected title. Okay, but these two values are not initialized, so we need to initialize them. It will be from common driver dot get title of the page, right? And one more thing, we need to put all of these in try catch. Okay, guys, just give me a second. I am getting a call, and that's important. I'll just pause for 1 minute. Sorry. So and the expected title, for now I'm keeping it hard coded, but later on we'll put that in our uh, later on we'll put that into our config file. Okay, so I'll just get the title from here. This is the title. Yeah, so title is also defined. Okay, so now it will compare both of them. Okay, just one more thing. Whenever you are using try catch in test cases, in catch always add one statement stating fail. Okay, remember this and put it as the last statement, because it will be like an exception, and even an exception occurred. You can put the message as well. Okay, and here you can also put the message that what exactly has occurred. So you can say e dot get message. So it will also print the message also. Okay, so what exactly we are doing here? I am verifying the title of the homepage of Mercury Travels. Expected one is I know, actual one is which I'll get from the page, and then I'm putting an assert statement stating assert dot assert equals actual title and expected title. We are comparing both of them. If both of them will be same, this test case will pass. If both of them will be different, test case will fail. Very simple. Okay. So and also whenever you're using a try catch in your in your test case, always remember to put a fail statement, because if before this assert statement, if something will fail, it will go to catch will handle that, and there won't be any exception. So your test case will always pass even though it's getting an exception. Okay, so any questions now?
So initially we used to put error in system.error.println for
that
the
that
fail.
was yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Jason, that was before we studied testng, before we studied any testing framework. Okay, what that time we were not actually handling any exception. We were just printing whatever exception is coming on the console. But in real time, printing on console is not your not something you want to achieve. If you're getting an exception, you want to fail your test case. So what I'm putting is, in my catch statement, I'm deliberately putting this fail statement. So if any of the exception will occur here, okay, it will go to your catch statement, will print it, and then will deliberately fail the test case with this message. Okay,
Okay. So
because
what is
yeah,
this dot get message?
dot get messages. Okay, whenever an exception occurs, if you remember, after the name of the exception, there is some message which gets print. If you're getting index out of bound exception, then it says like array index of out of bound colon 5. What does that 5 mean? That 5 means that at at index number 5 an exception has occurred. Okay, so that is actually the message. If you're getting uh, let's say if you're getting unable, okay, um, if we go back to our demo, if we just invoke this pom2, right click, run as Java application, if I'll execute this code, remember it give us an exception. So let it give an exception and then I'll explain. Okay, it might have given an, so just wait. Yeah, now we got this exception here. uh, this is the name of the exception class. After that, you're getting this statement. So this is the message. Whatever comes after this colon will be the message. So what we are saying is, in my code, what we are saying is, where is it? Yeah, yeah. I'm saying an exception occurred, and what is the message? Whatever was printed after that colon will get print here in your uh, wherever it will be printing. So in basically your report it will get clear, clear, Jishan. So this is the message. No such element.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Yeah. So this is first test case we have written, and for now here I'll just say print track trace, but later on we'll add um, logs in it. Okay. Moving on. We have one more test case here. Let me just quickly write that as well, and then we'll execute this. So here we have is verify user login with correct credentials. So first is I'll create username. For now I'm keeping it hard coded. Later on we will either put it in config.properties file, or we can use data driven also. So we'll see both the ways. And string password equal to, I'll say pro at 123, Yes, this was the password. I forget. Let me check it. In my previous project, in the config folder, let me see if I have, yeah, 1234. 1234 is the password, and what we have to do is we have to call uh, Amazon homepage. Okay, so here we will create the instance of that class. It will be Amazon, not Amazon, Mercury travel homepage test, not test, page, and Mercury, or I can call it empty homepage. And we need to initialize that also. So initialization will, let's say, happen after this. So it will be empty homepage equal to new Mercury travel homepage, and here you need to pass the driver instance, so it will be common driver dot get driver. Okay, I initialize this. Now here we'll say empty homepage dot user login with the username and the password, and we need to put everything in try catch. Shift control set, sorry, shift alt set and try catch. Here after this, let's put the fail statement, and here after this user login happened, we need to put an assert statement, right? So it will be assert dot assert equal, we need to compare actual and expected. So what we are going to compare, so if you'll see here, when I log in, pro at 1234. So if you'll see here, when I log in, here the message has changed from customer login to welcome Saurabh, right? That means for this username and password, once I log in, this makes sure that login is successful. That is welcome, comma Saurabh. Okay, so if you'll remember in my uh, where is that class? Okay, this is the other one. In Mercury Travel homepage, we defined one of the element, and that element was welcome text, right? Yeah, this was the one. Well, login tab title, right? So here I'll write one method that will be a public method. Return type will be string, and I'll say get welcome text. Okay, and here we'll say return driver dot, not driver, we need to get the text, right? So it will be common element dot get text, from where method element is, well, what is that, tab title tab, what is the name, login tab title. Okay, and here I can say throws exception. Okay, so this method, that is get welcome text, will be the method which I need to call here for actual one, right? So I can say, or let me create one string variable, string actual welcome text will be equal to empty homepage dot get welcome text, and string expected text is welcome, comma, and then a Saurabh. Currently I'm keeping it hard coded just like others. Later on we'll move all of these to our config files. So this ensures that your login is successful. So we have written two methods here. One is verify title of the page, and second one is user login with correct credentials. Any questions? Okay, so let's execute this and let's see if it is working fine or not. So I'll right click, run as, okay, not this one, this one we have to run, right click, run as test-ng test. Okay, so it executed. Yeah, something has failed. We'll see that both of them actually failed. Okay, but our code executed. Let's see what exactly failed. Okay, so one we are getting is invalid element state exception. That is, invalid element is not currently interactable and may not be manipulated. Okay, uh, and if you'll go to the result, both of them failed. The first one failed because expected was something but found to be something. Something. What exactly is the difference? Okay, I guess I have not taken from homepage the title. This is the one, and here from here we need to take the title. I'll change the title here. Okay, so this will pass now. And for the second one, for the user login, we need to add some weight. Okay, because we have to first move to this element and then click. So after moving to the element, for now I'm just putting wait statement whatever I have. So it will be wait utils. dot wait for, let's say I'm putting 2 seconds. Later on we can add the exception, wait command according to the exception. So it will click rather than 2 seconds. Let's just wait for 1 second only, or let it be two. Yeah, let's see if it works now or not. Still both of them are failing. Why? Okay, got it. Actually, the problem is with white space. So here, when you're comparing both the titles, what we can do is, here when we are comparing both the titles, here after getting the title, I can simply say dot trim, because the problem is with the white space. In the actual title, there is some extra white space. If you look at the console again, you'll get to know how I find out found it out. So if you see here in the start, we have a white space. So this white space is actually causing the problem. In the expected, so expected is okay, expected had the white space, but actual was not having the white space. So yeah, I just I just take care of white spaces. Now it will work fine. So this is verified title of the home page, and then we are having problem in here. In the second one, let me see what exactly is the problem. Let's run it again and we'll see now. Okay, so one is pass, other one is fail, and if I observed properly, it is not going to user login. That means the issue is with user login. Let's see it now. So I'll go to user login, open declaration. Here, when we are trying to click on user login button, it's failing. User login, where it is, yeah. So link text, let me see if it is correct or not. Here it is, a text. Okay, one more thing I can do is, before we click on it, let's move to Let's try this. Earlier I was just clicking, now I'm moving to that user login and then clicking on it. Maybe that element is not getting highlighted. That's the reason it was failing. Let's see if it works fine now or not. Okay, so at least it clicked on it now. After that something has failed. So let's see now what has failed. See now, as I told you in the start, that the biggest problem which you'll face will be with synchronization. So here also things are like failing because of that. Here, okay. So what I will do now, if I check it correctly, this is not the problem. I'll cut it. Okay, and I'll put wait statement here and then a wait statement here, and we'll see now. Okay, it's failing just after clicking. Let's run it again. I've just removed the clear text. Okay, now it will pass. You'll see both of them must pass. So maybe there is some issue with clear text. I need to check because I've used this clear text after long. Maybe some exception is occurring with clear text. Some defect is there in your in Selenium. Okay, but yeah, for now we don't need clear text because already it will be empty one. Okay, so like this you will write all your test cases. Any questions now? So is it clear that how we reached to this layer and completed it? So the main thing is methods will be written in application layer only. They will be converted into test cases in test case layer, and in test case layer each test must have at least one assert statement. Okay, so here also you can see I'm putting assert statement in every method, every test case. Any questions like this? You need to complete all the remaining test classes. Like here, if you'll see, we have these classes. You will write all the methods in these classes, all the elements and methods, and then create test cases out of those. Okay, now just one more thing. Here, if you'll observe in Mercury Travel homepage, I've written this invoke browser part. Okay, I'll just remove all the unwanted uh, things. Yeah. So here you can see I've written invoke browser part and then I've written the close browser part. Okay, it was done in Mercury Travel homepage. Similarly, if you'll write anything in holiday test, there also you will be repeating these two methods. And if you'll write the third class, there also you'll repeat these two methods. Right? So why to repeat anything? We can use some object oriented concepts here, like one of them can be Let me create one class and I'll call it base scenario. Okay. And from this Mercury travel, I'll take out this invoke browser part and close browser part. We'll move that into base scenario. Okay. Make both these common driver and this as public so that from outside they can be accessed. And in this, we will say extends what? Base scenario. Okay. And we don't need all these things here, so I'll just simply call shift control O. Okay, so what I did is all those methods, let me just close other tabs. If we'll say here the method that is invoke browser and the other one that is close browser, these two methods were repeating every time, right? So what I did, I just moved both of them into one single class, and now I'm simply saying extends base scenario. So before starting this test, it will invoke before class which is written in base scenario and after class written in base scenario. Okay, so if I'll execute this code now, nothing will change, everything will work fine. So you can see it has invoked the browser, that means everything is working fine. Clear? So when you will be writing the other methods, like when you will be writing this holiday test, you don't have to write invoke browser and close browser. Just say extends, simply say extends base scenario, and you are done, right? So look at the benefit of object oriented programming here. What we are doing, we are doing inheritance, and because of this, lot of work is left, is moved. We don't have to do that, right? So you don't have to do this invoke browser and close browser again. It will already automatically will be there. Now you can write all your methods inside this holiday test or this Mercury travel test. Clear? Any questions here? Yeah, Anshu, today I have all the time. You can discuss whatever you have. Okay. Any questions related to this? Okay. So this makes our next layer as well. So our test case layer is also done. Then we have test suite layer where I said that we'll be creating XML files. Now all of you know how to create XML files for testng. So that's what we have to do. Here we have this Mercury travel homepage. So you can say right click, then there is an option of testng. You can say create, convert to testng. This will be the XML file, and then browse where you want to keep that. So in my project, in here there is no folder, so I'll create a new folder. Let me create that first and then I'll come here. So in this I'll create one folder with the name test XML files. Okay, so we'll create all our XML files in that. So right click, testng, convert to testng, browse. Then inside this modular framework, if I'll expand it, here we'll say okay. Okay, and then I don't need, okay, maybe I don't need this, I don't need this, or maybe let it be there, it's fine. So we got our first XML file, testng.xml file, where you can call it as, you can change its name. I could have done there also. So right click, refactor, rename, and I'll call it Mercury Travel Homepage Tests. So I just change its name. Okay, and when you'll execute this, it will call Mercury Travel Homepage Tests. Okay, similarly, you can create one for sanity. So I'll say copy it, paste it, and you can say sanity scenarios. When you want to run all the sanity test cases, in the sanity scenarios, what extra will come? You need to just add a group, right? So here you'll say group, groups. In groups you need to put run. In run you need to include what? Sanity. And done. Now whichever test case will have this group as sanity, those will execute. Okay, like this, whatever different uh, different test suits you can have, like you can have sanity scenarios, you can have uh, regression test cases, you can have feature 1, feature 2, Mercury Travel homepage, and so on. So all those XML files will be created from here, and when you have to run it, it will be right click, run as. This time it will be testng suit. So same thing will execute. So we have created our next layer as well, that is this test suite layer, and we have done its manual trigger. What is left is Jenkins trigger, so we need to first learn Jenkins and then we can trigger it through Jenkins. Now tomorrow what we are going to cover, let's see that. So tomorrow we will be integrating it with config.properties. Okay, I'll be adding one test utility. No, test utility will be doing once we'll do data driven. Okay, so tomorrow we will be also implementing interacting reports, we'll be integrating logs, we'll be integrating snapshots. Okay, and this config dot properties, if time will permit, I'll also cover Jenkins, and then one class I need for data driven testing. So two more classes for this framework to get over. Okay, so tomorrow most of the things will be done, only data driven part will left, and in the next class we'll cover data driven as well. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm stopping the recording now.